What if I told you that the most courageous thing you can do right now is to quit, not give up, quit? There's a profound difference between the two. Let me tell you about Marcus. At 34, he was standing on the very edge of everything he had spent his life building, and he made a decision that everyone around him called cowardice. He walked away. He took a single step back, and that one step backward saved his entire life. Because sometimes the bravest warriors aren't the ones who keep fighting an unwinnable war. They're the ones who have the wisdom to know when to stop. For the last 10 years, Marcus had poured his soul into building a tech startup. This wasn't just a company to him. It was his identity. It was his proof to the world, his answer to every person who ever doubted him. He was living the hustle culture dream, or so he thought. 80-hour work weeks were the norm. He slept in the office more often than in his own bed. He missed birthdays, weddings, and even funerals. His girlfriend, after 3 years of waiting for him to show up, finally left. His best friend eventually stopped calling. His mother's voice on the phone was a constant, gentle inquiry. When was the last time you were genuinely happy, son? He'd always find a way to change the subject. Because happiness wasn't the goal. Success was, winning was. And Marcus was so incredibly close to winning. The company had just closed a major funding round. Investors were buzzing, calling it the next big thing. Industry magazines were scrambling to write profiles about him. Marcus was the golden boy, the relentless founder who never quit, the man who would do whatever it took to reach the summit. But on the inside, a part of him was dying. It started small, almost unnoticeable. Headaches that clung to him like a shadow, a persistent tightness in his chest that he brushed off as just part of the grind. Then, the panic attacks began. The first one ambushed him during a high-stakes board meeting. He was presenting the quarterly numbers, the figures looking better than ever, when suddenly he couldn't breathe. The room started to spin, the faces of the board members blurring into a single, judgmental smear. He excused himself, rushed to the nearest bathroom, and locked the door. He sat on the cold tile floor for 20 minutes, gasping, trying to remember the simple, primal act of inhaling and exhaling. He told himself it was just stress. Normal, high-achiever stress. Everyone feels this way, right? He just needed to push through it. So he did. He pushed through the second panic attack, and then the third. He pushed through the crushing insomnia that left him staring at the ceiling for hours, his mind racing. He pushed through the constant gnawing anxiety, the feeling that he was walking a tightrope over an endless, dark void. He pushed and pushed until there was nothing left to push against. And then, one morning, he woke up and couldn't get out of bed. It wasn't because he was tired. It was because his body, his entire being, had given up. His mind had surrendered. He just lay there, staring at the blank white ceiling, and for the first time in a decade, he felt absolutely nothing. No drive, no ambition, no fight left in him, just a profound, hollow emptiness. His co-founder found him like that in the afternoon, still in bed, staring at that same patch of ceiling. "Marcus, what are you doing? We have the big investor meeting in 2 hours. Are you okay?" Marcus slowly turned his head to look at him, and the words that came out of his mouth surprised even himself. "I can't do this anymore." His co-founder let out a nervous laugh. "What? Come on, man, stop joking. We're so close. Just a few more months of this, and we're set for life." Marcus interrupted him, his voice quieter this time, but firm. "I can't," he said it again. "I need to stop." The room fell silent. His co-founder stared at him as if he'd just started speaking a foreign language. "You're joking, right? You can't just quit. We have investors. We have employees who depend on us. We have obligations. You can't just walk away from all this." But as he heard the protests, Marcus already knew. He knew he could, and more importantly, he knew he had to. Walking away from the company was the hardest thing Marcus had ever done. The backlash was immediate and brutal. The industry that had called him a genius now labeled him a failure, a quitter. Some investors threatened lawsuits. Former colleagues who once admired him now whispered behind his back. He felt like he had let everyone down. For months, he was adrift. The silence after a decade of non-stop noise was deafening. He had to face the man in the mirror without the title of CEO, without the validation of success, who was Marcus without his company. That was the terrifying question he now had to answer. He started small. He started walking in the mornings. He started reading books that had nothing to do with business. He reconnected with his mother, not just with a quick phone call, but with long, meaningful conversations. He called his old best friend and apologized. Slowly, very slowly, things began to change. He started to notice the color of the sky. He started to taste his food again. One afternoon, while sitting in a park, he saw a group of kids playing, their laughter echoing in the air, and he smiled. A real, genuine smile. He realized that for 10 years, he hadn't been building a dream. He had been trapped in a cage he'd built for himself, a cage gilded with the promise of success. Quitting wasn't an act of cowardice. It was an act of profound self-preservation. It was the moment he chose his life over his livelihood. He had to tear down his entire identity to find out who he truly was underneath it all. And the man he found was quieter, calmer, and infinitely happier. Marcus's story isn't about the failure of a startup. It's about the success of a human being. We are conditioned to believe that quitting is a sign of weakness. We're told to never give up, to push through the pain. But what if the pain is a signal? What if it's your body, your mind, your very soul screaming at you that you're on the wrong path? There's a crucial difference between giving up on a dream and quitting a nightmare. Giving up is letting go when things get hard. Quitting, in the way Marcus did, is a conscious, strategic decision to stop doing something that is destroying you, even if it looks like success from the outside. It's recognizing that your mental health, your relationships, and your well-being are not negotiable prices for ambition. Sometimes, the most courageous battle you can fight is the one to reclaim your own life. It's having the strength to say, I can't do this anymore, and knowing that it isn't an admission of defeat, but a declaration of self-worth. The next week was brutal. He told the board he was stepping down. They thought he was having a breakdown. They offered him time off, a sabbatical, therapy. Just don't quit, they said. We need you. But Marcus realized something. They didn't need him. They needed the version of him that was willing to destroy himself for their success. And that version of him didn't exist anymore. His friends didn't understand. His family was worried. People in the industry called him a quitter. Some said he'd lost his nerve. Others said he'd thrown away the opportunity of a lifetime. And maybe they were right. But Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Relief. For the first few weeks, he didn't do anything. He slept. Really slept. For the first time in a decade. He took walks. Long, aimless walks with no destination. He sat in cafes and watched people. He read books that had nothing to do with business or productivity. And slowly, very slowly, he started to feel like a person again. One day, walking through a park, he saw a man teaching his young son to ride a bike. The boy kept falling. Over and over, he'd pedal a few feet, wobble, and crash. And every time, the father would help him up and say, "It's okay, try again." But then something different happened. The boy got back on the bike, started pedaling, and this time, instead of trying to go faster, he stopped. He put his feet down, got off the bike, and sat on the grass. "I need a break, Dad," the boy said, and the father smiled. "That's smart. Rest when you need to rest." Marcus stood there watching, and something clicked. The boy wasn't giving up. He was being smart. He was listening to himself. He was retreating so he could come back stronger. Marcus started thinking about his own life differently. For 10 years, he'd been taught that stopping was failure, that real warriors never retreat. But he'd been confusing persistence with stubbornness. He'd been confusing strength with self-destruction. And he realized that stepping back wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. Over the next few months, Marcus did something radical. He did nothing, or at least nothing that looked productive to the outside world. He went to therapy. He reconnected with old friends. He called his mother every week. He started cooking, something he'd loved as a teenager but had abandoned. He volunteered at a community garden. And one day, while pulling weeds, an old man working next to him asked, "What do you do?" Marcus paused. 6 months ago, he would have said, "I run a tech startup." But now, "I'm figuring that out," Marcus said honestly. The old man nodded. "That's good work. Most people never do that." 8 months after stepping back, Marcus started a new project. Not a startup, not something to prove anything to anyone. Just a small consulting practice, helping other founders avoid burnout. He worked 20 hours a week. He took weekends off. He said no to clients that didn't align with his values. And something strange happened. He was happier than he'd ever been. More present, more alive. He made less money. Sure, he wasn't on magazine covers, but he could breathe again. He could sleep. He could look at himself in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. Have you ever felt like you're fighting a battle that just isn't yours? Draining everything you have, leaving you completely empty? Let me tell you a story about a guy named Marcus. For 10 years, Marcus was the co-founder of a tech startup. He lived and breathed the company. We're talking 80-hour weeks, sleeping under his desk, fueling himself with caffeine and the sheer will to succeed. On the outside, it was the classic startup hustle, the dream. But on the inside, Marcus was falling apart. He was constantly anxious. His relationships were fraying, and his health was in a nosedive. He ignored the chest pains, the insomnia, the constant feeling of dread. He just kept pushing. One morning, he woke up on the office floor, unable to move. The official diagnosis was burnout, but it felt more like a complete system failure. That was his breaking point. He walked away from it all. He sold his shares for next to nothing and left the company he had helped build from the ground up. His friends, his family, they all thought he was crazy. "You're throwing away your future," they said. For a while, Marcus wondered if they were right. He spent months just recovering, learning to sleep again, reconnecting with the people he'd pushed away, rediscovering what it felt like to just be human. Then, one day, his old co-founder called. The startup had been acquired by a major corporation. Everyone who stayed had made a fortune. "You would have been a millionaire if you'd stayed." "Man," he said. And for a fleeting moment, Marcus felt a small pang, a tiny flicker of what if. But then, he thought about what it would have cost him to get there. His health, his relationships, his sanity, himself. "I'm happy for you," Marcus said, and he genuinely meant it. "But I made the right choice for me." There was a long, heavy pause on the other end of the line. "Yeah," his co-founder said, his voice barely a whisper. "Maybe you did. I haven't slept properly in 3 months, Marcus. I can't remember the last time I actually enjoyed anything. I have all this money, but sometimes I just lie awake and wonder if any of it was worth it." Marcus understood that feeling all too well. He'd been there, in that exact dark place. "It's okay to step back," Marcus told him. "It doesn't make you weak, it just makes you human." So what's the real lesson here? This isn't just Marcus's story. It's a story many of us are living right now in different ways. And there are some powerful truths we need to unpack. First, and this is crucial, retreat is not defeat. Let me say that again. Retreat is not defeat. Stepping back from a job, a situation, or a relationship that is destroying you isn't quitting. It's an act of survival. It's a strategic move. Think about it. The greatest generals in history knew exactly when to retreat and regroup, to save their army for a fight they could actually win. Why do we treat our own lives with less strategy? Why do we think we have to stand and fight until we're completely broken? Sometimes, the smartest move is to take a step back, catch your breath, and reevaluate the battlefield. Second, your body always keeps the score. Marcus ignored every single signal his body sent him until it completely shut down and forced him to stop. We have to stop treating our bodies like machines. That chronic pain is not normal. That constant anxiety is not just stress. That bone-deep exhaustion is not a badge of honor. It's all information. It's your body screaming at you, trying to tell you something is wrong. When your body says stop, you need to listen before it makes you stop. Third, and this is a big one, other people's definitions of success will absolutely kill you if you let them. Marcus spent a decade chasing a version of success that looked incredible on paper. The co-founder, the hustle, the potential millions, but it felt hollow in his soul. It was someone else's dream he had adopted as his own. The moment he let go of that external validation and started defining success for himself, things like peace of mind, good health, and time with loved ones, everything changed. What does success truly mean to you? Not to your parents, not to society, but to you. If you don't have an answer, you'll spend your life chasing ghosts. And finally, the single bravest thing you can ever do is choose yourself. Not your company, not your reputation, not what other people will think of you. You, choosing yourself, isn't selfish. It's necessary for survival. You are the only person who will be with you for your entire life. You are your most important asset. Protecting your well-being isn't an indulgence. It's your primary responsibility. So, if you're fighting a battle right now, a battle that is draining the life out of you, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. Is this really my fight? Or is this someone else's fight? Someone else's dream that I've convinced myself I have to win. Because sometimes the most courageous, powerful, and life-changing thing you can do is take one single step back. And that one small step might just be the one that saves your life. I really hope you found some value in this story. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like, and consider sharing it with friends or loved ones who might need to hear it today. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our future videos. We'll meet again.